One voice, one move, one spark. You were born to leave your mark.
Hey guys, welcome back to 31 Days, 31 Questions, where I ask a question of myself and answer it, and then I pass the mic, so to speak, to another woman who's either inspired me or I admire, or who has changed my life or has impacted my life in some way. So today's question, because I'm inside because we're under a severe thunderstorm watch, and I'm actually sitting at my island in my kitchen. It says, what's a lesson from another woman that changed your life? And I will say that even though I grew up in a family of women, probably the most learned lesson I ever learned, and it wasn't a lesson that she actually verbally said to me, but a lesson nonetheless, because her whole life was a lesson, was my Grandma Green, who is my dad's mom. She, at the time when my dad was growing up, there was no such thing as assistance for victims of domestic abuse. My grandmother, unfortunately, was a battered woman. Her and her husband would split up and get back together long enough for them to make a baby, and then he would beat her and she would go back. And so finally, at the end, she finally left and went and stayed with my dad's grandmother and grandfather, my great grandparents. But, you know, that woman had more perseverance and determination and stubbornness than I've ever met in anybody in my whole life. You would think after having that, because there was 8 kids total, 2 died before the age of 2, and going through all what she went through in her life, you would think she would have been bittered. And especially with my dad, you think he would have been bitter because he was the oldest and he saw all this happening. But no, as a matter of fact, my grandmother took it upon her life to start caring for other people. She became live-in caregivers. She would always come down, and whenever my parents had to go to Massachusetts for a funeral or anything else, she would always come down and stay with us. Or when, like, my other grandmother was sick and she lived in Massachusetts, she would always come down and she would always be the one that stayed with us. I love both my grandmothers, but I can just remember her being the most present in my life growing up. And even toward the end of her life, when she was declared legally blind and she lived on her own. She had so much stubbornness and perseverance. Yes, my aunt went over and helped her and did her grocery shopping and paid her bills, but she still managed to live on her own in her own house, in her own little apartment, which was amazing. And up until the last year of her life, which was in 1984, the doctors were amazed at how she was still alive, because she was basically all her organs had shut down and she was still alive, but she knew she wanted to see my dad, Sonny, who they called, because he was his dad's name was Albert as well. But she wanted to see my dad again one last time, and wanted to see the grandkids again, which is me and my 3 older sisters. And she made that happen. She made that possible, because within a week of seeing us, or within a few days of seeing us, she passed away. And my cousin Donna and I were the last family members to actually see her alive. So I think the lesson I learned from her sorry, that's Gigi walking. The weather's kind of freaking her out. The lesson I learned from her is perseverance, determination, self-reliance, being able to live life on your own terms, no matter what happened, not to let it get you down. And I wish more people were like that. I wish I had more of her in me, because if I only had 1 ounce of strength that she had in her little finger, my life would be so much better. So that's the answer to the question. So today I passed the question on to one of my all-in coaches, Shantay. She is amazing. I love her to death. And we had a whole conversation about this particular question, about her being both of us not really wanting to be on camera. I'm making myself do these questions because I feel like it's strength for me. So take it away, Shantay.
Hi, I'm Shantay. I am an accountability coach with All In, where we help empower and encourage people to achieve their health and wellness goals. I'm also a wife and mom of 2. My son is 9 and my daughter is 6. The question that I had today was, what's a lesson from another woman that changed your life? And the one that came to mind for me is from the book Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And in it, she says, if you're not in the arena getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback, which is actually an adaptation from Theodore Roosevelt's speech, The Man in the Arena. When I first heard it, it really stuck with me, because I think especially now when we are bombarded by social media. We have so much information and feedback being thrown at us all the time. It's really easy to fall into the trap of listening to opinions of people who are standing safely on the sidelines. They're not out there taking the risk, they're not putting themselves out there, and they're not doing the hard work. And what Brene Brown reminds us is that the people who truly understand the struggle are the ones who are in the arena. They're the ones that are showing up, they're trying, they're failing, they're learning, and they're always getting back up again. Being in the arena means that you're willing to be vulnerable. It means you're brave enough to try, even when there's a chance that you might fail or fall short. It's a lesson that I carry with me. I try to incorporate that into my everyday life, into my parenting, into my coaching. I think it's so much more important to be in the arena, showing up and trying, rather than sitting in the stands and judging people who are brave enough to step in. So, thanks.